Hey everyone, Rob Mott here on the Forge and Forest podcast, brought to you by Uwharrie Outdoor. Longtime EDC and knife enthusiast here, interviewing Chris Williams today. Chris Williams is the founder and owner of Wilmont Knives and the creator of Wilmont Grinders, two highly respected names within the custom knife making industry. Before entering the world of knife manufacturing, Chris served for more than 2 decades in the United States Army Special Operations community, where he developed a deep understanding of the importance of reliability, performance, and precision in the tools professionals depend on. Following his military career, Chris combined his operational experience with his passion for craftsmanship to build Wilmont Knives, producing custom fixed blades, hunting knives, outdoor tools, and Damascus steel creations that have earned the recognition throughout the knife community. His commitment to quality and functional design has made his work highly sought after by collectors, outdoorsmen, and professionals alike. Beyond his accomplishments as a knife maker, Chris is also widely recognized as the innovator behind Wilmont Grinders. His grinder systems have become an industry standard for countless custom knife makers, helping shape the way modern blades are designed and manufactured. Today, we will discuss Chris's journey from military service to entrepreneurship, the evolution of Wilmont Knives and Wilmont Grinders, his philosophy on craftsmanship and design, and his perspective on the future of American knife making. Chris, welcome. Thank you for joining us.
Thanks for having me, Rob. I sure appreciate it.
Spent 20 years in the Army Special Operations community.
Yes,
How
sir.
did that experience influence the way that you design knives today?
It actually did a pretty good job of helping me guide what I perceive as a great knife. While I was making knives in the military for about 5 years, I really was never that good. It's only making a knife every couple months. And about the time I retired is when I really decided to take it seriously, which was about 20 years ago today. I retired in 2006, and I started taking it serious at that point. And that's when I went ahead and designed the Persian Fighter, the fixed blade, because I realized I never carried the perfect knife, or what I perceived as the perfect knife. So I developed the Persian Fighter. Then I was very pleased with it, and it's done very well. And from there, I just kept going. About that time, I developed the grinder because there just wasn't a good boutique grinder in the market at that time, back when I was making it about 20 years ago.
Yeah.
But the military did help guide me in what I perceive as a good knife, and I'm anxious to talk to you about that more later.
Sure. Yeah. And what was that first knife? Was it
Persian Fighter?
The Persian Fighter?
The Persian Fighter was my first real fixed blade that I was proud of. And that, to me, was the perfect military knife.
And that was kind of the idea behind making that knife?
Yes, sir.
Was for that purpose?
I wanted to make a knife that I wished I had when I was in the military. So that's why I developed the Persian Fighter. And like I said, I was extremely pleased with it. And from there, I went on to turn that into a folder, and then a miniature version of that called the Mini Persian Fighter. And those are my two go-to knives in most instances, either the fixed Persian Fighter or the Mini Persian Fighter.
What moment did you realize that knife making could become a full-time career?
I did it for 5 or 6 years as a hobby, because I was a director of engineering. I was doing mechanical engineering work. And I was making them as a hobby, but I was starting to take it fairly seriously. And then what happened was I got colon cancer, and the doctor was like, "You need a job with no stress." And I was like, light bulb went off above my head. I was like, I'll just transition into making grinders full time, because I was making grinders just for myself and close friends. Spartan Blades was actually my first customer. The very first customer to ever buy the Wilmont Grinder. And then I quickly figured out that the demand for my grinder was far higher than my knives. So I kind of transitioned into grinder manufacturing and then doing knives part-time. And now I'm kind of flipping the script, and I'm putting grinders to rest, and I'm focusing only on knives every day, all day.
How many of those grinders you got in stock right now?
About 40 right now. About 40. And then after that, I'm probably going to put that to bed. 15 years of manufacturing grinders. I'm kind of getting tired of it.
Sure. Going back to the knife.
Going back to the knife thing.
Yeah. What lessons from the special operations have you carried over into running a business?
Oh, I mean, wow. That's a good question. One, don't procrastinate. That's the number one thing in business. If you put off tomorrow what you can do today, you're just not going to be successful in business. You just can't. It's impossible. So that is the biggest sticking point I've seen with people. They're procrastinators. You can't do that in business. Not if you're a self-starter and you run the business and you're an entrepreneur. You better get it done.
Yeah. You ever find any time off, or?
I make Saturdays and Sundays, fun days for me. So I go down there with no agenda, and I only do something that's fun.
Yeah.
Every Saturday, every Sunday. I work every day.
Excellent.
Unless I'm hungover.
So what makes a great outdoor hunting knife, in your opinion?
Good question. Again, edge geometry is pretty important, but an outdoor knife, you have to ask yourself: Are you gonna baton firewood with it? You need a slightly more robust edge, or do you want a keen slicer? Well, it's going to have a finer edge, but more prone to damage. So really depends what you want to do with it. A big knife with a tough edge, maybe a little thicker than normal, so you can baton and you don't damage. Yeah. But a lot of knives I make have a really keen edge. You wouldn't want to baton them through firewood. It could slightly damage it. So it really just depends what you want to do with the tool. I also like D2 steel in outdoor knives because holds an edge well. It's almost a stainless D2. It's one chromium point away from a stainless, so it's not necessarily going to rust. It might get tiny little spots, but a little Scotch-Brite, you can take it off. So I prefer D2 steel on an outdoor knife. And then edge geometry is going to depend on how abusive you are on your knife.
Sure. Yeah. You kind of gave me insight into how you evaluate a knife earlier.
Yes, sir. Yeah, that was fun.
Yeah, it was a new process for me. Right. Can you just tell the viewers a little bit about how you go about evaluating any knife?
Sure. I do have a process that I use when I evaluate a knife. And the first thing I want to do is I attempt not to look at it. I just put it in my hand. And what I'm doing is I'm attempting to evaluate, to perceive an opinion of the knife with no eyes. So this is no visual. And you're going to hold it, and you're going to pretend that you're going to chop a 2x4 in half. And you have to ask yourself, does this knife have good retention? Are there any hot spots? Is my thumb going to get worn bloody because the jimping's too sharp on the edges, on the corners? Mm-hmm. Does the edge have any hot spots? The handle. You also want to reverse it to see if it reverses well. And then I also run my fingers along the cutting edge to see how thick the edge was before it was sharpened. I like 20 thousandths or less because I know it's going to be a keen slicer and it's going to slice through cardboard well. And a lot of knives have a really thick edge, and that's okay. That's a hard use knife now, but it's not going to be a keen slicer.
Sure. And I know a lot of viewers might be.
Oh, I didn't even finish the second part. So yeah, you hold it, you evaluate, get an opinion using your your hands, mm-hmm. and then set it down, and then get a visual with your eyes and see what you think. And then evaluate it with just your eyes. And then merge the two together and see what you think. Did you like the way it felt? Did you like the way it looked? Does it have good retention? Are there hot spots? Is there some sharp edges? And that's, in my opinion, the best way to evaluate a knife. And then the last thing you want to do is check the edge thickness. And I do that by just running my first finger and my thumb along the cutting edge. And this has got a very keen edge, this Uwharrie Persian fighter. And so that's nice.
And just so we can, public service announcement, what's a safe way to check how sharp a blade is without bleeding?
Good. I like to use a fingernail check. If you put it on your fingernail and try to move it, it doesn't slide back and forth. Now, if this knife were dull, this would slide back and forth on my fingernail. That's one way. Another way is the hair, but the problem with that as a knife maker is you end up with no hair on your arm. So I prefer the fingernail test. Okay. Now, also cutting paper. A new knife should be able to cut paper cleanly and easily. So that's another way.
Chris, how has your knife making style evolved over the years?
It's definitely evolved. I find the more you design, the more your design eye evolves. Like I can look at knives I did 20 years ago and you grimace. And hopefully as a knife maker, everybody's doing that. They're looking back a couple years and they kind of grimace. That's great. That means you're growing. Mm-hmm. And that means you're learning what you like. You're learning what looks good. You're learning what performs. And when you sit down and design a knife, it all just comes together as you become more advanced in design.
Yeah. No one's going to knock it out of the park.
No. And the most important thing is after you design a knife, I then hang it on a clipboard and I never make it for at least a week or two. And what I found, if you do that, especially with folders, you will go through several design changes, and you'll never even made it yet. Because you're looking at it every day. You look at it, and then you'll formulate an opinion. Like, that finger groove's not far enough forward. It's not far enough back. The handle looks blocky. And you'll start to fix it. And that's what I do anyway.
Yeah. What steels do you find yourself using most often, and why?
Great question. I like D2. Since I like D2, that means I like a CPM steel called Crewware, which is D2 on steroids. So I prefer Crewware, D2, and then when I get into stainlesses, normally CPM S35VN.
Okay.
And that goes on every one of my folders. And the reason why is I used to use D2. And then one time in the ocean, I had to cut something away from a prop when I was scuba diving. And that whole knife rusted up the next day, the D2. So I was like, you know what? Let's put stainless on all the folders. And that's what I do now.
Yeah. What are your thoughts on Damascus steel?
Well, I love it. First off, I love making my own Damascus. I've got a hot shop in the backyard with 2 or 3 power hammers, 2 presses, a rolling mill, and I make all my own Damascus. And every winter, usually December, January, February, I'll make 40, 50, 60 billets that I then turn into knife blanks later in the year as it warms up, because I only run the forge when it's cold.
Yeah. You told me about this earlier, and there's no scientific reason for this other than
it's too hot to run the forge in the summer.
Yeah.
It's when it's 100 degrees out, you're not turning the forge on.
Yeah. What makes a good Damascus blade?
You just got to start with good steel. Like I was telling you earlier, I could make a mono knife, a cutlery knife, a chef knife made out of this one of the same steels I put in my Damascus, and it will cut just effectively as a Damascus knife. So when we make Damascus, we're not making better knives. We're just making prettier knives. It's kind of, we're showing off is what we're doing.
Yeah, I used to think that Damascus was a magic bullet.
Yeah, it's not.
And it was superior to every other. And basically you're saying it's purely cosmetic.
It's purely cosmetic.
Yeah, and it does look good. It really does.
And it's, it's the art side of knife making, and that's why I do it. And it's challenging, I make a sand my knife, and however many beats you put on one side of the billet, you have to flip it over and do the exact same amount of beats in the same places on the other side, because your dies don't come down perfectly per belt. They're coming down at a slight bias, which means if you keep beating the same side too much and you're trying to make a sand my knife, your core is going to shift. And that's bad.
Okay. What's the most challenging knife you built?
VZ42 dagger. I'm making 4 right now. It's the most challenging knife I've ever made, and it is difficult because you've got to grind 4 bevels, and they all have to be in the exact right place, and your apex has to be in the center of the blade of the dagger, and it's tricky.
Yeah.
I had a friend challenge me to make one, and I said okay, and definitely the most challenging knife I've ever made.
Well, I know a good grinding system that somebody makes.
Thank you.
I'd be able to help you with that.
Yeah.
Are there any knife trends you think are overrated, or maybe some that are underrated?
No, I honestly don't really keep tabs of what's out there and what's popular in any capacity. I just go to the shop and I just kind of just make what's in my head. Yeah. And that happens a lot. As an artist, you wake up and you see something, maybe you jot it down, maybe you don't. Sometimes take a bar of steel to the grinder to see what comes out. And if I do that, I'm always blow myself away because it's not necessarily something I would have drawn. Yeah. So just getting creative with a stick of steel is the best thing to do. Just take it to a grinder and see what happens. Yeah. And you were talking a little bit about that earlier. What kind of inspires that? Is it how you're looking at it, how it feels? It's just in the moment. It's just you're allowing your brain to just go crazy. Yeah. And it's something I like to do every now and then. Like I have a piece of steel sitting there. Sometimes I'll have a 6, 8, 10 foot 10-inch piece just sitting by the grinder, and I'll be like, let's just make something we've never made before. Yeah. And it's not always stellar. Sometimes it ends up, being your Kydex knife, or sometimes it doesn't make it out of the shop, but that's the way it is. Yeah. You have your favorites. You keep a hold of some of them, huh? Oh, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. Whenever I do a run, I'll normally keep 1 or 2. Yeah. I saw you had some pizza cutters on the website. I do. Yeah. Use of those? So that was a father-son project for my ex-wife. We made a Damascus blade first, and then I went ahead and I was like, well, let's just design the handle, and we cut it out on the router. And we gave it to my ex-wife, and she was very pleased. And then I was like, well, there might be a product other people might like. And so I started making them, and I probably sold 100 now. Yeah. Cut the hell out of some pizza there. Yeah. Yeah. I'll do a titanium blade or a Damascus blade. And now I'm having some stainless steel blades. I'm putting stainless steel 440C. What common mistakes do new knife makers make when designing blades? The biggest mistake I see beginners making is they make the cutting edge too thick. But in design, generally, it's just they're immature designs. Like I can always tell a beginner design. I'm like, okay, he's kind of new at this, and he has to get in there and make a couple dozen knives, and then his design eye will start to evolve. Yeah. But it takes making some crappy knives. I mean, the first 5 years I made knives in the military, they were all crappy. I mean, they weren't. The cutting edge was too thick. The bevels weren't even on the right and left. And those are the mistakes beginners make. Yeah. And we tend to stop when the sides, when the 2 bevels are even if the cutting edge is too thick, you just want to stop because the knife looks decent, but you've made made a chisel that looks like a knife. That's what I did the first 5 years I made knives.
Sure. Yeah. And how would you balance durability, performance, and appearance when making a knife?
Well, the more experience you become, the easier it is. Like I know now, if I want to take the grinds higher on the right and left, I can do it without mixing the knife up. Whereas when you're younger and less mature, you'll stop before you ruin it, even though it's not perfect. It's too thick. Maybe the bevels aren't high enough. That's what I used to do anyway. Now that I'm slightly experienced, I probably made about 3,000, 4,000 knives. So now if I step up to the grinder, I know I'm going to get the results I want.
Speaking of the grinders that you're making, what inspired you to start making these?
Great question. Okay, so here's what happened. I was working as a director of engineering for a small defense contracting firm, and we needed a belt grinder in the back because we used to modify cars and all these other weird things. And so we needed one, and I was a mechanical engineer and a knife maker. And I was like, well, I'll just design it. And so I designed the predecessor to that one, which was called the triple arm grinder, very similar. And I made 3, one for work, one for the boss, the CEO, and then one for me. And then people started wanting it. So I made it like 5. And Spartan Blades was the first customer. And they're obviously great friends, good guys. And it grew legs. It just took off.
You mentioned some local knife makers, and Uwharrie here we're filming out of.
Yeah.
Any other knife makers that you really like in the area?
Yeah, well, Uwharrie, Tom is incredible. I work with him. He's licensed a few of my designs. He's licensed his Persian Fighter for me, and a few other knives. And I also like Spartan Blades. Let me see. I'm going to see Liam Hoffman in a few days. So he's an incredible knife maker, though he primarily focuses on axes. Mm-hmm. Winkler Knives. I'm going to go up and see him in a few days. I have to drop some things off. Incredible guy, humble as they come.
Yeah.
So those, Darren Soroy is in Fayetteville here. It's Troop Knives, another great knife maker. Nice outfit here in Fayetteville. Got like 10 guys working for him, maybe more.
Yeah.
Incredible guy, nice guy. And we all share assets together. You know, he needs things, I help him. Same. That's what I like about the knife making community. It's pretty tight.
Yeah.
We're very helpful with each other.
Yeah, I saw that in Blade Show a couple of weeks ago.
Absolutely, yeah. We all knife makers. Now I used to be in the gun industry, and I got out of it because it's not such a friendly environment.
Sure,
but the knife making, I can't say it's anywhere like the gun industry. It's so much nicer. Yeah,
yeah. The artistry, the craftsmanship that goes into it, and there's camaraderie around that. And I saw that.
Yeah, you could call about any knife maker as being a knife maker and ask somebody how they do something, and 99% of the time they're going to tell you how they do it.
Yeah,
because we're all self-taught, so we're not hoarders of the knowledge, unlike the gun industry.
Did you expect Wilmont Grinders to become such a major name in the knife making community?
No, I was making them and thinking, these will never sell. But, I made 3 or 5 the first run, and they sold out pretty fast. And I was like, wow. So I put up a website, started making more. And within a year or two, I realized that my grinder design was far more in demand than my knives.
Yeah.
So I did that for 15 years.
What was the differentiator between what you were making with the grinder and what was on the market?
So the main reason why I developed my own grinder is all the knife making grinders back when I started my company 15 years ago, more like 18. They all had a tool rest that was fixed. And it was a piece of L that was attached to the arm that held your accessory being your flat platen or your contact wheel. And the tool rest was a part of it. It was just a piece of L-shaped steel. You couldn't raise or lower it, and you couldn't tilt it. And so I developed a tool rest for another grinder brand called KMG, very popular grinder. And I built a tool rest for it. So I had to build a slot to hold the tool rest. And I realized the tool rest being adjustable in height and adjustable in angle brought so much modularity to the grinder that I was first going to sell a kit to sell my tool rest on KMG. And then I decided I would just develop a grinder. Mm-hmm. And that's what happened. And it just took off.
Yeah.
But it started out just before I developed the grinder for my old business, I was just using a modified KMG with the extra tool rest that was adjustable, and I realized there was a lot of merit in that.
Yeah,
you need a tool rest that can, because when you're grinding against a flat platen, if you're always grinding right in front of your tool rest, well, then you wear out your backing plate right there because the belt's got grit behind it. So if you wear out part of your backing plate on your flat platen, you can just raise the tool rest 3 inches. Boom, you're grinding in a whole new area. And everything's great again. What
advice would you give someone starting out their knife shop?
You need a great grinder and a good drill press. Those are and then maybe a small porta bandsaw put on a swag table. It's really good. You want a metal cutting bandsaw or a chop saw or a fiber cutting chop saw. You need to acquire the right tools.
Yeah.
You need it. And the better the tools are, the more enjoyable the experience of knife making.
What do you think that initial investment looks like?
You're going to have to spend $4 or $5 grand. I think you're going to have to spend $4 or $5 grand if you want to take this seriously.
Yeah.
A grinder minimum is going to cost you $2,500. Mine's $3,500. But you can get into an Ameribraid for around $2,500. And they're not a bad entry level grinder. But if you really get into it, you're going to regret having bought it a year or two down the road. And then you'll end up with two because you'll want to get a better one.
Yeah. Are there any features of it that you think are overlooked for grinding?
Yeah. I mean, my grinder is fairly modular. There's 4 slots, so you can take your accessory and put it from the first slot to the fourth. So you can adjust the height. I always suggest the accessory being in slot 1 and the tool rest being in slot 3. But you can adjust that. It's a very, very modular grinder, and that's what makes it special. And a lot of the other grinders out there aren't so modular. A lot of them, the flat platen won't tilt, or the tool rest won't tilt, or the tool rest isn't on its own arm, which is really important in my opinion. Because if you want to get rid of the tool rest, I just loosen the handle, pull it out, and set it on the ground. It's not my way.
Yeah.
So you want a modular grinder, without a doubt.
All right, we're getting into the harder questions here. You ready, Chris?
I'm ready.
What's been harder, making knives or building a manufacturing company?
Oh, without a doubt, building a manufacturing company.
Yeah.
Without a doubt. There's so many setbacks. I mean, if you send out a wrong DXF file to have 2,000 parts made, you're going to, and I did it one time, not 2,000, thank goodness. In CAD, the scale is very important. And the scale was set 2-to-1. And I had some parts cut that were way too small. They're half the size. And I got them. I was like, oh my gosh. Luckily, it wasn't an expensive part. And it was the only mistake I ever made one time.
Yeah.
But definitely manufacturing, because then, you got to be a legit business. You got to get your EIN number. You have to pay taxes. You have to get an accountant. All things that are not fun.
Yeah. Make your mistakes fast.
Yes. Make your mistakes
and
fast.
learn from them.
Absolutely.
What other mistakes taught you the most as a business owner?
Well, you definitely learn from your mistakes if you're analytical like I am. So doing that, and then just purchasing the right amount of parts so you don't run out of money before you need more parts. It's a numbers game, and you have to know how much money you have in your grinder, because you have to make sure whatever you have in the grinder stays in the business when you sell one. You can't pull money out or your inventory goes backwards. It's pretty simple economics. If you do it wrong, you won't be in the business long.
Yeah. Money in, money out.
Money in, money out.
How's the knife industry changed since you started?
It's definitely, I've been going to Blade Show for about 17, 16 years. And without a doubt, there's far more vendors now. I mean, we've run out of room at the Blade Show. I'm sure you know that. Everyone knows that. But in the old days, there's 2 rooms at the Blade Show. There's a second room, a small room, and there's a primary room. In the old days, it was just a primary room. And the primary room was never filled up. So they've hit saturation, which is why there's multiple Blade Shows now. Yeah. And I do plan on trying to get down to the Blade Show in Texas next year with my folders.
Oh, nice. Yeah.
Because I've not been to that show before. But the Blade Show is incredible because of the people. And all knife makers are generally really nice guys. We don't tolerate too many a-holes in the knife industry. They tend to get run out of town.
Yeah.
Take advantage of customers or other knife makers. You won't be in the business long.
Yeah. They talk.
Oh, we all talk.
Yeah.
We talk.
So we talked about manufacturing and designing. How do you launch a brand?
That's a good question. I just kind of stumbled on, Wilmont is a bastardized version of my last name, Williams, who I can't call it Williams Grinder. So I called it Wilmont. But creating a brand is really tricky because you have to be able to put a marketing hat on and you have to be able to be good at social media.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of artists and knife makers that aren't so good at that side of it. And so they're really not that well known, but they should be.
Yeah. And
Blade Show is one of those places you have to bring your own customers. Unless you have extremely unique designs. You generally need customers to be coming down just to see your work. And if you can pull that off, well, then you can be successful. But you have to be able to put a marketing hat on.
How do you maintain quality while growing production at the same time?
That's not easy. I don't rush ever. Sometimes I'm lucky in that I don't take orders. So if a batch needs to take 6 months to get to the finish line, that's what it takes. There are times when I'll put some knives away because I'm just not feeling it. I'm just not. Maybe they're not being ground out as well as I like, so I'll put them away for a week or two. But what I do is I've always had this philosophy. In January or December, I cut several hundred knives, whatever I want to make for the year. Water jet cut the blanks, put them on hooks, and then I'll take a week to grind a whole batch. And I do all the right sides first, then all the left sides. And doing it that way, I get my muscle memory down, and it'll look like they're CNC ground. They'll all be exactly the same. So you got to build process.
Yeah.
You have to build process. And I've got that down pretty well.
Chris, do you have a favorite story involving one of your knives?
Yeah, I have an interesting one you might like. So I developed this, ulu axe. It's an ulu that sets into the handle, so you can remove it. So it's a knife and an axe.
Yeah.
And I actually designed it for big game hunters, because it's fairly lightweight for a small hatchet, because it's a small aluminum handle, small little 1/4-inch thick ulu. And so I designed it for the hunters to quarter, big game after climbing up a big mountain, what have you. I'm not a big hunter. I'm more a fisherman, but that's what I designed it for. And I sold one time to a buddy of mine that works for VZ Grips, John Van Zyke. He's the owner. And he took it on a big game hunt, and the guide used it to quarter an animal, maybe an elk or a sheep. I'm not quite sure. And just lost his mind. He actually sent me the videos of this guy just not believing that this thing not cut the animal up and then quartered it and then kept cutting the animal up, and that kind of blew him away. And he was like, oh man, I think I want to make this. And I'm like, okay, but I need to work on a Rev 2. And I'm doing that now, and I should have it done in a month. I actually have a prototype done.
Yeah. And you said that iteration, the prototype, it's been what, 8
years?
8 years.
Yeah, I started that 8 years ago, and it's in the grinder business kind of shelved a lot of my good designs. And so it kind of just we've not hit this Rev 2, which is going to happen in the next 30 days. Yeah. And so that was really cool to see a video from his guide where he was like, oh my God, what do I need to do to get one of these? And he was going on and on and on and on. Yeah. And so that made me feel good. And that was the coolest story I've had for one of my knives.
Yeah. That's an Inuit knife, right?
Yeah, sure is.
Yeah.
Sure is.
I've used one before. One of the many knives I've cut my hands with. So not the easiest of knives to use.
No, it's not. It's nice, small, very curved blade. It's a unique knife.
Yeah, it is.
Very unique.
What's a piece of gear you never leave home without?
Usually a folding knife. Although I don't have one right now, but I normally never leave the house without a folding knife. And lots of times a 3-finger fixed blade carried horizontally on the right side of my buckle as I'm here.
Yeah.
Normally I've always got a fixed blade. I normally always have a folder.
Yeah. What's your thoughts on like a multi-tool?
Multi-tools have their place. When I was in the military, I always carried one, and oh my God, they will save the day. Screwdriver, pliers, real good serrated edge, tweezers. I like multi-tools, any of them.
Bottle opener.
Oh my God, everything. There's everything in them. I love them. When I was in the military, I always had one on me. There was never a time I didn't have a multi-tool on me. All the time.
Are there any knife makers that have influenced your knives today?
Yes, quite a few. Let me think. A lot of the master smiths I'm close with, and because they've given me a lot of guidance on how to improve the grinder. So there's Scott McGee, master smith, Bert Foster, Jason Knight, all incredible makers, extremely giving of their time. I could call any of these guys, and they'll answer, and they'll take as much time as I want on the phone. And that, so those are the guys I look up to. I'm
seeing a lot of common themes with that. Sharing information, the community again.
It's an extremely tight community, and everyone is extremely friendly. As a matter of fact, I'm going to see Dan Winkler in a few days. I have to drop some tools off. And again, he's another incredible resource.
Yeah.
I learned so much just by looking in other men's shop. And Dan Winkler will let me run around. I go look at this Kydex setup, and it's extremely unique the way he does it. And what I like about this industry is so many knife makers just figure out how to do stuff. So they may do stuff that's very original to themselves, and they'll share it all. Yeah. It's amazing.
What excites you the most about the future of American knife making?
I love I would never be on the Forged in Fire show. I don't want to denigrate the show. I think it's been incredible for the industry. It's brought a lot of knife makers in the industry. It's helped with my grinder sales. And I like that it's getting people excited about the design and manufacturing of knives in USA. It's done a good thing. Yeah. In my opinion, absolutely.
What are some of the particular challenges specifically around manufacturing here in the US?
You have to decide how you want to manufacture first. Are you going to grind them yourself, or are you going to farm that out? Because there is houses that will grind your bevels. Then you just have to do the rest. But that's not the way I like to make a knife. I want to do everything in-house. I want to do everything in shop. I want to make every aspect of the knife myself. So really you just have to ask yourself, if you have there's some guys that they have a model that's so in demand, they might have the bevel CNC ground. There's nothing wrong with that. Or they might have, like I always have my blanks cut out with the water jet cut. I mean, that's because we get more yield on a piece of steel. They can nest them an eighth apart. I can't do that with a bandsaw. I can't cut and hit the curves I need. So I like having my nice water jet cut, and that is something you need to look at once you've made 5 or 10. You know it's a good design. You know you want to make it for the next couple of years. You should put 25 on a hook.
Yeah. How has manufacturing in the U.S. changed over the past couple of years?
With the advent of the CNC and more people, back 20 years ago, you were cheating if you use a CNC. That was the perception.
Yeah.
And thankfully that's gone away now. Mm-hmm. So there's quite a few really good knife makers that have CNCs in their shop, and they know how to use them, and they're artists with it. So and I have a CNC router in the house. I have a CNC mill in the house, and then I have mostly manual tools. But the advent of CNC is like the CNC router just saves me so much time, because it just 2D cuts out my scales. So, I still do all the hard work. I take it to the grinder and I flush it with the steel, and then I put the scallops on the handle by hand with a small wheel attachment. But I do like that I can lean on, when I'm working on knives, my CNC router may be whittling out 50 scales. And that is your money ahead.
Yeah.
Because then again, with a CNC router, you can nest these things an 1/8 inch apart. And, with a bandsaw, you're cutting them quite a bit oversized. So you get more yield if you get some of these tools. And then the hard part's learning the CAD and the CAM to run them. But that's challenging. So that's why I love it.
People are using AI everywhere for everything. Yeah. Is there any AI used in the process for you personally?
Never. No, I don't have any use for it. It doesn't mean I might not get on board one day, but it's just not interested me in any way.
Yeah.
In any capacity.
Yeah.
So I don't mess with AI much. Yeah. And it's just not my thing.
Yeah. As an artist,
it doesn't offer me anything.
Yeah. If you could own one knife for the rest of your life, what's that knife going to be?
Persian Fighter fixed blade.
Yeah.
That's my favorite knife. Yes. This knife, fixed, is my favorite knife.
If you could have dinner with any 3 knife makers, and I know you're having a barbecue with one here shortly.
I've met maybe some of the old guys that aren't around, and their name escapes me now. Swenson, Almar, some of the big names, but all the better great smiths, a lot of them have passed, unfortunately.
Yeah. And I know you continue to meet a lot of the local knife makers around.
The locals and the non-locals. The neat thing about knife making is once you've been in it for a while and you this is what you do, and this is your avocation, then we all kind of know each other.
Yeah.
And we help and we share.
What separates the brands that survive to the ones that disappear?
Good question. First off, you can't be dishonest about the steel you use, and that will kill a knife maker's career so fast. Yeah. He's advertising one steel and it's another, or maybe something's made offshore and it's not advertised as made offshore. That will kill your business so fast. You have to be extremely truthful, and you have to be honest, and then of course you have to hit the marketing side of it, which is, like I said, that's a hard thing for a lot of artists to do, and I'm not so great at it, promoting myself, but that's a large part of knife making. If you want to go the distance, you really need to get good at social media, Instagram, TikTok, whatever brings the customers to you. Yeah, it gets people excited about what you're making.
Telling that story to getting people to understand.
And that's hard for a lot of artists to do. It's definitely hard for me.
Yeah,
it's hard, but you got to put yourself out there, and people have to get to know you. And it can be done on social media. I show process videos on Instagram, and that lots of times will get me a customer before the knife's done, and that's nice.
Yeah. What do you think is more important, that storytelling or the performance?
You have to have the performance first.
Yeah.
You really do, in my opinion. And that's not always going to be the case with the beginner. They're not going to make great knives in the beginning. And what I tell people is, it doesn't matter. Get it done. Get it to the finish line, learn the lessons from it, and make the next one better. And a good knife maker, every knife maker he makes is going to be a little bit better, and he'll gain a lot of traction in a couple of years.
Yeah. What opportunities do you see for a small knife maker here in the U.S. over the next 5 years?
Well, there's more there's more houses that'll make a knife for you. That wasn't really the case maybe 10, 15 years ago. There weren't a lot of outfits that would make your knife for you. So some of these guys, they come out, they have some unique designs, and they have the ability, they can have them, white box labeled. And that's interesting, and that's one way to do it. It's not the way I do it. I prefer to do everything in house, but there's nothing wrong with, mid-tech, there's nothing wrong with having it, if it's a unique design and it's made well and it's made right, that is an opportunity that you could do. And I've actually ground knives for other makers. You get kind of a beginner and you'd be like, hey, would you grind 25 of my blanks? and I'll have them send me one, and I'll test it, and I'll do what I can do and farm it back, and then sometimes he's like, yeah, let's do 25. And so then he'll focus on the rest, which is the handles, the sharpening, the finish, whether it's going to be black or silver, or stone washed, and the sheath and the whole 9 yards. And so that is another way for a guy to get into knife making and not have to figure the grinding out right at the beginning.
So build that community, lean on each other.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. All you got to do is reach out and say, hey, would you grind 25 knives for me? There's not a lot of knife makers that would say no to that. It just depends what their backlog is.
Yeah. Well, again, you're showing me how great the community is.
Yeah.
Chris, I want to thank you again for joining today. It's been a pleasure talking with you.
Thanks again, Rob. Thanks for having me.
To the next one. Yeah.
And one other thing, we're in Uwharrie Outdoors right now, and Tom licenses a few designs for me, and I really appreciate Tom having brought us together and using the storefront. I thought that's been very kind of him.
Yeah, met Tom at Blade Show a few weeks ago. Couldn't wait to look. I was looking forward to working with him. Yeah. So it's a pleasure to do this first project together, and looking forward to many more.
Thanks.
Thanks again, Chris.